Okay, okay. Now I'm going back. By way of introduction, my name is Dr. Londa Irvin, and I am the Executive Director for Multicultural Services and Programs. And I welcome you here tonight. I am extremely timely. I do not believe in starting late because I want to make sure you get enough time to ask questions and engage. So today is the last for the fall. We will reconvene in the spring and continue radical self-care. We're focusing on body. So we have a beautiful sister from Bristol, England, Dr. Mena Fombo, sorry. And she's going to talk about basically her study and what she has been doing. No, you cannot touch my hair. And just let me share this. I've always thought this was a cultural issue, Black women, women of color, but I have a Latina sister online and she experiences the same thing. So I think this can cross over. If you color your hair, you dye your hair, you have natural, whichever. Okay. So with that said, I am introducing our speaker, and these are some of the prizes we're going to give away. So make sure you stay online. I'll randomly pick students to get either a shirt or book, whatever they so choose. Once again, Radical Self-Care is basically a workshop series. I believe that we needed to talk as women in order for us to start looking more to ourselves before we try to help others. And that involves the body, the mind, and the spirit. So Dr. Mena Fombo, shoot, Mena, we started talking during COVID, so during the summer. And I'm talking to her and trying to get her here and trying to get her to speak and not knowing that I was talking to someone over the water, which blew my mind once I started talking to her. So this is Mena's bio. I won't speak it. I won't read the whole thing. She's just engaged and she's fighting the fight in Bristol and in the UK in general. And she'll share more about herself. The title is No, You Cannot Touch My Hair. And once again, her conversation is an uplifting, candid talk centered on becoming an activist and owning our own collective power as Black women X. And I love the X. And I am pretty sure Mena will share what that means. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Dr. Mena Fombo. Mena, I will murder your name until I stop murdering it. But thank you, and I take it, I give it to you.
Thank you for that introduction, Ilonda. And you murdered my name with such grace. I'm gonna let you have that one. In case anybody wants to know, it's Fombo. So Fombo, like a bow and arrow. Yeah, good evening, good afternoon. It's very late here in the UK, so it's coming up to 11 for us. But if I look tired, it's because I am, but it's okay. I'm with you, I'm present, I'm here. Just a bit of housekeeping to get going. So firstly, I'm sure most of you have used Zoom before, but just in case anybody hasn't, feel free to use the chats. If you want to talk to me whilst I'm still talking, feel free to ask me questions in the chat. I'll be glancing back and forth. I've got two screens going, which is why you see my name twice. The second screen, I'm going to be bringing up some slides with shortly. So if you don't want to just see the slides, just press escape and just, keep the people there and just kind of have the slides minimized to the side. They're just talking prompts. There's a few visuals, but it's not the be all and the end all. Because I'm talking across the water, if I say anything that sounds like slang or an acronym or things just slip out, just don't be afraid to just kind of like physically give me a wave or just use the little, the reactions down the bottom of the screen. So I've got one up going now, clapping myself. Feel free to use the icons just to kind of, give me a wave, put your hand up or whatever, and I'll come to you. And if I don't come to you, then just interrupt me because I can quite happily talk forever. So feel free to interrupt me, ask me questions. It's great to see people that have got their cameras on. I've been doing these Zoom things, obviously since COVID has started predominantly. And it's really nice when people are happy to turn their cameras on. I'm not wearing any makeup. I look like it's late at night. So if you want to bring them on, then feel free to show me who you are. But if you don't, that's all cool as well. And let's have a conversation. Yeah, I don't want to just sit here and just talk at you for the next hour or so. So let's try and have a conversation, have a dialogue. I hope this is going to be a nice cultural exchange on both our parts. How does that sound? Give me something, anybody. Yes, I see thumbs up. I see nods. Fantastic. Yes, thank you, Augustina and Jocelyn, for the thumbs up, and Nautica. Fantastic. Okay, let's get started. So I'm just going to share. I hope I've got these two screens. So Ilonda, can you share my second screen, the second Mena Fombo? Can you give me admin over there, and then I can share that screen, and I'll keep this one that we've got on. I'm not an angel. It's not a halo by my head. It's just the light in the room. I've moved the desk around and it's a bad idea, but we'll move it for now.
Okay, I don't have your screen to share.
Oh, it's the same email address. It's still Mena Fombo again. I'm in the middle.
Is that it?
Is that it? No. It just should be my second. I'm logged in as another participant.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha.
Okay. So let's just do this. Okay, cool. So you guys can see that. You all can see that. Fantastic. So just in terms of who am I, just a little backstory. So I have what I describe over in the UK as a portfolio career. So I do lots of things. I'm not saying that I advise people to do lots of things because it can be exhausting, but at the same time, it's given me lots of different strings to my bow, as they would say. So Dr. Mena Fombo is my sort of, I guess, my professional consultancy name. So I'm a consultant, I'm a coach, and I'm a facilitator when I'm wearing that hat. Mena the entrepreneur, I have multiple businesses. So I currently run 3 businesses at the moment, which I'll talk more about all of these areas as we get through. And then there's Samina, the director. So my government name, or my birth name, however you want to describe it, is actually Somina. I'm British Nigerian, and it's just shortened to Mena as like a different thing. But I'll talk about each of my different sort of aliases, I should say, as we go in. And I guess I'll share that bit of backstory with you, just to kind of set up who I am as a person, how I got here, and then how all of that plays into my activism. But before we get into that, we go way back to Mena as the baby that was born way back in the day. I guess to set up who am I really behind the scenes. So anybody that did anybody see my TED Talk? Feel free to wave a hand, a thumbs up. Not many people. Okay, cool. Well, I can fill you in. Couple of people did. So basically, in terms of my background, I'm British Nigerian. So my parents are from Nigeria, whole generations from Nigeria. They moved to the UK in the 80s. Me and my brother were born. And then my birth father went back to Nigeria and kind of just did that thing that some men do, which is just leave. So my birth mother was based in the UK. She's got a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, or 8-month-old. She's really struggling. And so what she did is she put us into temporary foster care at the time, with the idea that culturally, a lot of Nigerians are very focused on education, achievement, academia, and she wanted to finish her studies in the UK, get a good job, and take care of us properly. That was kind of her plan. And in order to do that, she temporarily put us into foster care. In the UK, a lot of West African families did that at that time, around the 70s and 80s. There's a term called farming. There's 2 films out right now. One's called The Last Tree, one's called Farming. Those experiences are based on those storytellers. So not all of our lives are like the films, but it will just give you a bit more context to that cultural sort of practice. So we went into temporary foster care with my foster parents. So my foster parents are Jean and David Kinkton. They're actually a white English family that lived in Bristol, which is where I'm now, so the Southwest. And my birth mom, Sissy, lives in London. So I guess it's kind of like the equivalent of living in New York and Texas in terms of the culture and the difference between the 2 spaces. So what we had in the UK was called an open foster arrangement. So what that meant is that I always knew who my birth mom was. She would come to visit us every weekend. You know, she'd be there. She's part of the family for the day. She'd go back to London for the week and work. And then when we got to school age during school holidays, my blood brother Floyd and I, we would go and spend time living with her in London. So she lived in a high-rise flat in a predominantly sort of Black area, the equivalent of what you guys would probably call the projects. And we would be with her around all of our Nigerian aunties, very matriarchal environment. Everybody spoke Nigerian. We ate Nigerian food. We went to church on Sundays, listened to gospel in the house, and lots of Nigerian music. and we're very much Nigerian children, but just happened to be in England. When we would go to Bristol during school term, we were living with a white English family. My English family have 5 kids of their own before they adopted me and my brother. So we were the only Black kids in like the area, the only Black kids in the school. In fact, my whole school from like age 5 through to 16, I was like one of the only Black children in the school the whole time. And we did very, what I would call very English things or white English things. So people eat like roast dinners, drink tea, you know, just kind of like, I know about how it transfers into American culture, but very English things. But to me, that was completely normal. There was no, I didn't know that that wasn't normal until I got to sort of school age, because that had been my life since I was 8 months old, back and forth, 2 mums. I knew that I was a woman before I knew that I was Black, in the sense that things that helped define me was that I'm the youngest. I have 5 brothers. So my blood brother Floyd, 4 foster brothers, and then my sister Helen is the oldest. And because she was so much older than me, like in her sort of late teens, she was more like a mother figure, and she moved out when I was like 9. So when I was young, so many things I wasn't allowed to do because I was a girl. So I wanted a BMX bike, but I couldn't have one because it's a boy's bike. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to wear trousers to school, but I wasn't allowed. I had to wear a skirt because that's what the school said. So I knew that I was a girl before I realized I was Black, because I'd been living this cultural lifestyle. I guess the reason I share that, I guess, because a lot of my activism is embedded in racial justice, social justice, inequality, diversity, inclusion, equity, all of those terms. That's kind of the foundation for all of the work that I'm in. And I guess it's funny to me when I think about it, well, actually, I was campaigning for like equality for women before I was campaigning for racial equality, because I was constantly arguing with my parents and like just complaining, and like I just didn't think, it just wasn't, I just knew that it was so unfair that there were so many things I couldn't do or wasn't meant to be doing because I was a girl. So in terms of my school, again, as I said, I was the only Black girl in the school. Again, always fighting racism. Being called the N-word wasn't uncommon, but I always knew that that was wrong, and I was always very much able to stand up for myself. I was the biggest girl in the school, so I was known as like the bodyguard or the hardest girl in the school. So I was just constantly fighting. I got to about 14 years old, and over in the UK, that's when you're getting ready for your exams. And I basically pulled a knife on a student, not to kind of attack the student, but it was a case of I was defending a mixed race, a younger mixed race student had come to me and they said, Mena, someone's been racist. Like, okay, I'll go deal with it. Because my role was the bodyguard. So they'd all come to me. There's like about 7 or 8 kids, Asian and Black kids. And they would come to me and tell me if there's a problem, and I'd go and deal with it. So on this occasion, I'd been doing a play. I had a knife in school because in the play, our characters had knives. And so I pretended that I was gonna, I waved a knife at this kid that had been racist to another kid. And that was all I did with it. I wasn't thinking anything of it, put the knife away. And then that kid turned out was terrified, and he thought I was gonna kill him. So he ran home, and he basically never came back to our school again. His mum moved him schools. I then got obviously pulled out of my lesson, taken to the head. So it was a big intervention. I got suspended for a few days, but I had a big meeting and I said, look, all the kids that are of color in this school come to me when there's racism. The school does not have systems or practices in place to help these kids. They come to me, so it's my job to go and deal with it because I'm the oldest, person of color in the school, and I'm the strongest. And I was never going to kill him, obviously not, but I was just threatening him. And they were like, but do you not see how threatening is bad? And I was like, well, no, because I wasn't actually going to do anything about it. This is my childhood mind speaking. So they recognized at that point that I was essentially the equivalent of an honor student. So I was great in school. I was on all the sports teams. I was like head of my year. I was a very good representative. So I wasn't a bad student. I just had misdirected energy, what they called it. So they had an intervention, and this teacher took me to the side and she's like, look, who do you admire? Who do you look up to? And at that point, this is back in like the 90s. So there's no internet. Internet doesn't exist yet. There's no, in our school, we've only got access to the library. There are no Black authors and books in our library. It's a completely white, like I said, area white school. And so all I knew was Malcolm X. Do you know what I mean? And, Martin Luther King. We learn about those people more than we learn about British Black achievements back in the day. So I was like, oh yeah, Malcolm X, and I know Martin Luther King. And my teacher was like, okay, what did Martin Luther King do? And I was like, oh, he preached, peaceful protest. This is before I learned more about Martin Luther King's later sort of policies and ideas. But she's like, okay, right. So she said, he's an activist, he's a campaigner. So if you want, you could become a campaigner. You don't have to fight people to stop people being racist. You don't have to threaten people to stop them being racist. There are other things you can do. And so with that, she took me to, after school one day, she took me to this project where they had, is in an area which is the black part of town. And I can remember walking into this place called Kumba Project, which was a Black arts and culture space. And I walked into the library, and there was a guy in there called Edson, who's a librarian. And I still know this guy, Edson, to this day. And I can remember just being so like overwhelmed and just in shock, because all around me were posters of Black people. And I'd never seen posters of Black people other than like celebrities. Do you know what I mean? Because the area that I was in was a white area. All the books were Black books, like literally just whole loads of Black books. All the staff were Black. And I was just like, wow, like this is amazing. Like I've never been somewhere where that's like this. And they were like, you should get involved in carnival. So that we have this African Caribbean carnival every year. You know, you should come here and do some work experience and come and help. So my teacher recognized that I needed some role models that were not my aunties, that were Nigerian, that were just don't go outside, just go and read, go and learn, go and study books, so Mena. That was their culture up in London. But in Bristol, I needed to find an identity. So that was where I found my space and place to begin with. So I guess spring forward to where I'm at, that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of the setting up, my setup, I should say. Before I move on, any comments, thoughts, questions? Just let it land. No? Okay, cool. I'll move on. So spring forward to university, I studied film. And I wanted to be, actually, in fact, I wanted to be an actress. I acted from age 11 till I was 18. I went to 1 year of university. I was studying photography. I had this idea that I could take my own headshots so that I could send them to agents and get casted. So I was doing university. Again, I went to a city called Southampton, one of the only Black students. I remember meeting another student there in the first week. It's called Freshers Week over here. And she was like, this is amazing. My friend from Bristol also came. He's a white guy and he was gay. And so she was like, this is amazing. I've never met a Black or a gay before. And you're just like normal people. Uni's amazing. And we looked at her like what planet is this? Is she from? Are we still in England? Like, is she really saying this in like, you know, the early noughties? So I transferred in that time. I had this realization that no matter how good an actress I was never going to get a part on British television. I was never going to become an actress. I was never going to be Angela Bassett, Waiting to Exhale, that scene where she pulls all the clothes out. That was not going to be in my life because there were no parts for me. So I transferred courses back to Bristol to study film. 3 years of doing film. In that whole 3 years, we watched one film that was directed by a Black director, and it's a Black female director, and it's a 5-minute short film. In that 3 years, that again, there are no videos in the library by Black directors. There are no textbooks by Black directors. The internet is still quite new. It's kind of like 2001, 2004. So we complained loads and loads and loads. I kind of leave university. I'm trying to get into the industry. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting any doors through. And I take a job teaching filmmaking to young people. And during this time, I guess my story kind of really changes in the sense that I thought if I teach filmmaking to young people, I'll use the film kit for free, I'll make my own films on weekends, and I'll somehow make a good film, and you know, things will work out. And whilst through teaching filmmaking to young people, I found this passion for working with young people. Unfortunately, in this organization, the senior leader is a very racist organization. And what I wasn't aware of was that in the 4 years prior to me joining, every year they'd hired a new Black staff member, and every year that Black staff member would have a formal complaint taken out against them by the white program manager, and they would get fired. So I'm the 5th person now coming into this setup completely unaware. So I'm doing a great job. I'm living my best life. I'm getting really, you know, good engagement. Everybody's ringing and calling me because the project's in the Black area, but it's led by a white team. And that's not a problem, but this one was. And so everybody was calling for me, and apparently she felt intimidated that I was trying to take her job. I wasn't. I was the most junior person there, but she made a formal complaint of bullying and harassment. I got suspended, and what followed was an 18-month process of court case. And so I lost my job, I lost my house in that time, my stuff went in storage, I was living with a friend on her sofa, and I had nothing left. My whole foster family, by the way, had emigrated to Australia during this time. So I was kind of on my own, break down a relationship with my birth mum. So we don't talk. So I'm just kind of like trying to like get through life. So I spent 18 months fighting this case. I ended up having to move to London to live with my birth mum, who again, we weren't friends at that time, but I had nowhere else to go. And I was back and forth fighting this court case. And that's when it all emerged that all these other Black staff had had problems with her. I won half my case, but what I realized in that time was that, you know, I was labeled aggressive, I was labeled intimidating, I was labeled as trying to undermine her, I was trying to take her job, I was trying to turn a whole community against her. All of these things that were said against me made me realize that what lengths people will go to if they feel threatened. It made me realize I was so naive at that point to the fact that I just need to do a great job. Yeah, I'm doing a good job. That must be good enough. But I realized in that moment that other people have other agendas, and those other agendas had a negative impact on my life. So when I came out of that process, I'd lost a lot of trust, but I was very broken. I'd always been very outspoken and very forthright and very sort of like campaign for change. And I was an activist and I'm going to change the film industry and I'll change young people's lives. And I was kind of very broken to the point I couldn't speak in meetings. I was very quiet. But I moved to London, went to another organization that completely embraced me. And they were like, we think you're amazing. We think you're great. Just do you. And we think if you know, whatever happened in your past is the past. So that was really good grounding for me. And that's where I went on a coaching course. And within the first sort of hour, I was completely sold. And I guess I'd been in a space where I was so broken. Coming to this coaching program enabled me to re-unlock my potential and not be afraid to kind of be like, yes, you put yourself out there. Yes, you were doing all the right things. Yes, you got burned by some bad people. And yes, you didn't understand the system or grievance procedures. You didn't have a big track. I didn't have any evidence, I didn't understand the law and so on, legislation and employment law. But all you can do is learn from that, set some new goals and keep going forward. And don't let what happened define your whole career. So that kind of is where my coaching journey began. So I will go to Mena, the coach. So from that process, that organization, I flourished. I spent a lot of time traveling around the UK, working with young people, developing young people, building confidence, supporting young people to become entrepreneurs. Everything was embedded in activism, so things that young people cared about. I spent a lot of time working over in Kenya, doing the same work there, so leadership, values-led practice. And from working as a coach, moved into facilitation, moved into managing volunteers, did a lot of work with supporting young people to understand politics and political engagement, especially Black young people in London. And the idea being, these are the tools to become an activist. You're on the fringes of society, go out and protest, go out and march, go out and set up social media campaigns, do all of that stuff, but at the same time, understand the political system that's at play. And if you're smart, you'll marry the two together. You kind of need each other to make change. This influences this and this influences that. So I did a lot of work around that space. Came back to Bristol about 7.5 years after being in London, a new woman. I'd grown, I traveled, I built a brand for myself, moved back to the city. And that was when I launched the No You Can't Touch My Hair campaign. So that campaign was just born out of, like I said, a whole lifetime of experiences of racism, as I've painted the picture for you. And one thing that was current throughout all of that was that everywhere I had gone, people had been grabbing my hair and trying to grab my hair or touch my hair. A lot of Black people experience it, but if anybody listening that doesn't, it's a combination of people just you're walking down the street, sat on the bus stop, and people just go, "Oh, I love your braids," and you're just like, "Thanks, don't touch me." To, "Oh, can I touch your hair?" And they're already touching your hair. To people just grabbing it anyway. And I decided, I felt like if I had a tape recorder, I would just want to play "Don't Touch Me," and before you even ask, these are the reasons why, because I got so tired of the same conversation. And especially in professional settings, it was very frustrating, because if I'm representing my company or an organization, I'm trying to get funding, or I'm trying to be a role model to young or whatever, I can't turn back into 14-year-old Mena and pull out a knife on somebody or just go and beat somebody up. Do you know what I mean? That's not going to happen. I have to be nice and, "Please don't touch it. Thanks for that. By the way, read the report that I've just written." So I decided to just print it on t-shirts. So I got some t-shirts printed and I just started wearing it. And I specifically wore it in places where I felt that people Right. Well, I knew I'd be one of the only Black people in the space because as a senior leader, that's the higher up you go in the UK, especially, the more and more that becomes the case. But also where I was on days I just couldn't be bothered to like be nice to people. And so what I found was that people who Black people that saw the shirts were like, let me get one of those. So I had a little side hustle selling shirts, but a lot of white people were like, oh, so so what is this? Does that actually happen? Or do you know what? I would have actually come and touched your hair. That's really weird. Like I was thinking, her hair's so beautiful. Let me come and touch it. But I've just seen your shirt. And is it rude if I do that? And I was like, okay, this person wants to have the conversation and I'm in a good mood today. And actually I've got time and space. So let's have that conversation. So through that process, the TEDx talk, I pitched the talk to TEDx Bristol. They loved the idea. I spelled talk wrong, but just ignore that. They loved the idea. And so in order to bring traction to that talk, I launched a video, which is basically me. I'll try and find it actually before the end of this talk, but it's basically me walking around an area called Queen Square in Bristol, just grabbing white people's hair, just to kind of demonstrate how ludicrous it was. And that video did really well. It did like 500,000 hits in sort of a couple of weeks. And it really raised the profile of the talk. And what we had was we had an online survey. So people from all over the world completed the survey. So from Black women in China, Australia, across the States, Korea, all across Europe. And predominantly everybody is saying the same thing. Yes, it happens to us all the time. And everyone was sharing their stories. So I heard all these amazing stories, predominantly from Black women saying it happened. And what we found was that I think just over half of people said it happened at least once a month. And another 18% said it happened at least once a week. So unwanted and uninvited touching, which we call hair attacks, or I've called them hair attacks because you're attacking my space. One of the things we asked in the campaign was, what do you want to be done? What do you need? And Black women, particularly in Bristol, in the UK, were like, we need more Black spaces. So compared to the States, we don't have the numbers that you have in terms of Black power or the volume of people. So whilst you were kind of, London has like a 50% Black, Asian, and majority ethnic population. Other parts of the UK, it's much more dispersed. And where I live in Bristol, there are pockets within the city, but we're very dispersed. So what I launched from that for the Southwest was the Black Girl Convention as a space where we would come together at least once a year, 150, 200 Black women in a space for the day, just doing things. There was actually a campaign that was released, I think it was a bunch of students that did it a few years ago. And they basically asked people, what age were you when you received learning from someone who looks like you? I don't know if anyone have heard of it or seen it, but they were saying, what age were you when you received learning from someone who looks like you? Now, I was 27 years old. The first time I was in it's actually a coaching session where a Black woman was teaching the coaching training. 27 years old was the first time I got taught by a Black person anything in like a formal space. In Bristol, where I'm from, there are 1,400 secondary school teachers, so age 11 to 18 school teachers. There are 26 teachers that are from Black, Asian, minority ethnic background. But the school population of those students is 33%. So you can see the disparity between the number of teachers and the number of students. So one of the things we do at Black Girl Convention, it's obviously an all Black affair. We have Black facilitators. I think 99%, because sometimes the venue owners are white or whatever, but we have all Black female facilitators, and the women, it's an amazing day. People are crying, like, some people didn't realize how much they need that space until they're in it. There's a lot of sort of mixed race families where you have a lot of young women that may have Black fathers that tend to be living with their white families and not have engagement with their Black families. So for them, they're like, this is the first time I've been in a space with older Black women over 50. I don't know any Black women over 50. Do you know what I mean? And then the elders are kind of like, it's amazing to be around young people. So we have that event, we run retreats. It's all centered around the values of arts, activism, advancement, affirmation, and adventure. And we run a bunch of events off of that. So we've grown to be the largest event in the Southwest. And this year we went virtual. So we reached a Nigerian audience. Have you guys heard of the NSARS movement? NSARS movement, yeah? No? Yeah? If you put in hashtag end SARS, then we spoke to someone over in Nigeria, and that was about showing allyship. So the other thing we do at Black Girl Convention is we run How to Be a Great Ally sessions. So we've been going for 4 years, and that's for white people and men and Asians and whoever, anybody who wants to be an ally specifically to the Black girl movement can come to those days. And we're there for you that day or for that session. We're on the clock. You've all paid to come. We're going to give you what you need in that space. But when we close that space, leave us alone, because this is for us. And we launched the How to Be a Great Ally sessions because at the first Black Girl Convention, some white people turned up. And I was already hosting, so I didn't see them come in. They came in, sat down. And one of the girls asked a question and said, 365 days of the year in Bristol, you can go anywhere you want, anytime, anywhere, any place. This is one event, it's 3 hours long, because the first event was quite short. It's 3 hours long, and it says Black Girl Convention for Black women. Why did you come here? And the white women didn't say anything. And I was just like, okay. And I was like, let's not walk away from that conversation. Let's have that conversation. And I didn't invite them to speak because it wasn't their space to speak. But what came out of the conversation was, there's one woman there and she said, I'm mixed race, I'm very light skinned, I have 4 children. 2 of them identify as Black and 2 of them identify as white. She said, the 2 that are white passing. And unless I told you, you wouldn't know that they have Black heritage. My 2 darker skinned children, they've all got the same mother and father, are visibly mixed race. So they identify as Black. So she said, I think that we shouldn't necessarily be so quick to judge who is Black and who's not Black in this space. And then other people kind of said, it's changed the dynamic of the space. I don't want to contribute anymore because they're just here to listen and to watch us. So off the back of that, we launched How to Be a Great Ally, and we said, look, just not let us, we're doing our thing. You're not coming to it. But if you want to support us, come to How to Be a Great Ally and we'll tell you what we need. We don't need you to come to our events, but we do want your money. We do want your property. We do want your business networks. We do want you to sign petitions. We do want you to vote a certain way. These are the things we want if you want to be an ally to us. But what we don't want is you to infiltrate our spaces. How are we doing for time? Have I talked too much? Where are we? I'll talk for maybe 3 more minutes and then we'll just chat. Feel free to ask questions as well because I'm just talking lots. So the other few things I do is I worked in the creative industry, supporting young people for 15 years or so. So as I said, I worked in London, activism. I moved back to Bristol. I was doing a lot of work running a creative agency, supporting young people get into the creative industries. So illustration, photography, animation, film, and so on. And basically last year, I was like, do you know what? I'm coming up to 40 next year. I've been helping other people forever and I'm exhausted. And actually, my dream was always to make films, and I didn't get a chance to do that 15 years ago. The industry is now in a space where they're saying in the UK, we agree, Black Lives Matter, and we agree we want more Black voices, and we agree we want more diversity. And I was like, do you know what? I've got this whole back catalogue of stories that I've been storing up for years and years and years. The dream was always to direct. So do you know what? I'm in a position now where I make enough finance for my other work consultancy and so on to just support myself to go back and live that dream. So I teamed up with the guy here, which is Mike Jenkins. He's my business partner. He had his own journey and his own story. We teamed up just over a year ago and we launched Black Wave Productions, recognizing that there were no Black-owned TV production companies in Bristol. I found myself in these meetings representing my organization. There'd be 140 people in the room. And I was the only Black person in the room, as usual, at City Hall, so our political space in the city, trying to get get Netflix to come to Bristol and Channel 4 and all the big companies. And I was like, hang on a second. Everybody in this room is talking about diversity and being more diverse and wanting to be more diverse, but no one's hiring Black in the city and no one's telling those stories. And actually, do I want these people to tell our stories? So me and Mike teamed up. Mike was a freelance independent. We launched Black Waves and we were the first Black-owned company in the Southwest. So we've been going a year now. I quit the day job and now I'm focused on Black Wave Productions. So my other activism is being that change that I want to see and not being afraid to go to kind of continue to follow that dream and get there in a different pathway. This is Home Carnival Queen. Hopefully you can find that online, but it's a film I directed earlier this summer. And yeah, that's an amazing dancer, Aggie. So I directed that short. The stories, my stories, I tend to focus are on centering Black women in the stories, centering queer Black women in stories, centering dark-skinned Black women in stories, centering older women, anything Black and female, or not female, but women and women who identify as women and non-binary people is where I'm at. That's what I'm here for. I will tell other stories, but my focus is pitching those stories and making those happen. And the last thing I'll talk about is just Mena continue to be the activist. So myself and Mike, at the same time, when we talked about all of our ideas, we also launched Bristol African Caribbean Culture Space. So when I first launched Black Girl Convention 4 years ago, I got a grant from a body in Bristol, not in Bristol, in the UK. And I wanted to go and hire a Black owned venue to host my Black run event, because I wanted to put that money back in the pockets of other Black people. So I looked for a venue owned by a Black woman, and there's only one owned by, it's a woman who owns a nightclub, and that wasn't right. And she's further out of the city. So then I looked for a venue owned by a Black man, and I was like, no, there isn't any. And I was like, hang on a second. So Bristol, and people might know Bristol as the Colston statue, Edward Colston, the statue that got pulled down during the summer Black Lives Matter marches and sent the catalyst to statues going down around the world. So that's where Bristol is. The other thing to know about Bristol is that Bristol was once the leading trade of the transatlantic slave port in the world, and it ran for like 70 years. So this is the home of the transatlantic slave trade, was in Bristol. This is where, and Edward Colston was a very famous slave trader. And so the whole city is named after Colston Hall, Colston School, Colston this. We've started changing a lot of names now, but also the wealth of the city has come from this harbour, and all the money in the city to this day is on the harbour. And when I talked about the video where I walked around touching white people's hair, I did that in a space called Queen Square. And Queen Square was one of the most wealthy, was the most wealthiest city in the UK way back in the day. Again, Bristol, we have roads like called White Ladies Road and Black Boy Hill, and Bristol's got a history. So to think that on our harbour, which is in the centre of the city, there's not a single Black owned business in the whole of that vicinity, yet the whole wealth of our city has been off of that history. I was like, nah, that's not happening. So that was 4 years ago, and I realised that. So meanwhile, I've been running the event anyway, and making white people give us their venues for free. But in the background, when me and Mike got together, we were like, let's buy a boat, let's turn it into a venue, and let's have the first Black owned venue boat on the harbour, and let it be a Black art space. And it's to develop and support Black artists and creatives, but it's for everybody to kind of enjoy and learn about the history of the waters and of the city, but also focus on Afrofuturism and supporting a new generation. So this is just a boat that we've identified. It's a barge. That's an example of what it could look like on the inside in a shell format. It'll be a multi-purpose space. And a lot of the boats on the water, you can kind of branch out onto the patio as well. So we've got big ideas. We're a year in at the moment to that project, but that's just kind of another space that I'm lending my energy to. What does it take to be an activist? It takes values. So I'm very much values led. So knowing who you are, knowing what your values are, knowing what you're passionate about. I think you need to know who you are as a person, and like I said, what you care about, what keeps you awake at night, yeah, and what you're good with. Motivation. So that ties into what's the reason for you doing this? Is it because you're really passionate about this thing, or is it because you can't stand the way something is and you want to see something change? You want to see a difference. So figure out what the motivation for your activism might be. Next is about getting the tools. So the tools to me is like getting the right skills. That's about having access to resources. That might be people, that might be things, that might be money, that might be knowledge, whatever the tools are that you need to take that step, get that in place, and then you take that action. And I say it in terms of values, motivation, and tools. When they're all in a line, the action, it doesn't become easy, but it becomes clear as to what to do. The reason I put that picture there of me as an American footballer is because I played American football just before I did the No You Can't Touch My Hair campaign. It was a lifetime dream that I had. I played it. I went to the game at 35, 36. I was one of the oldest players. I made it to the Team GB practice squad. My team was like 6-time national champions. We're amazing. But I gave up playing football to set up Black Girl Convention and to set up my businesses. It's a big sacrifice that I made because I didn't have time to do both. My team is in a different city, you're back and forth, you're training, you know, whatever. So sometimes you might have to make a sacrifice. But I made the decision that even though I'd made it to Team GB practice squad, like I wanted to like play in the games and get there, and I needed like probably another season behind me in terms of game experience. But I was like, when I go on that field for 4 hours and we're playing games, it's amazing. We can win all these trophies and medals and it's great and I love it. But when I step off the field, the world is still racist. When I go back to my hometown, there are still no Black-owned venues. There are still no spaces where Black women only can can congregate. I still have to be smile at work to people that are being, you know, racist or microaggressions to me because I'm in a professional space. Yeah, I wanted my own company so I could turn around and be like, hell no, I'm not working with you. What did you just say? Bye. I wanted that power and autonomy over what I did. So that was the sacrifice that I made the decision to make in order to pursue what I felt was a bigger cause. So that was me getting my motivation in check. What did I want out of this? I've talked loads and loads and loads. I've jumped all over, but feel free to like ask me questions about anything.
You did have a comment, we're often made to feel guilty for needing Black spaces. That was from Ms. Hart Craig.
Oh, hello. Yeah, we are. And it's the same in the UK. Like, yeah, it's the same in the UK. People don't really, some people don't get it or they don't understand it. And I'm kind of at a point now where I used to explain it and now I'm just like, hell, you know, if a company, if I'm being in my Dr. Mena Fombo hat, so it depends what hat I'm wearing. So if I'm being Dr. Mena Fombo as the consultant, I'll entertain the ignorance that some people have about guilt tripping, and they're like, and people ask questions, and I'm on the clock and they're paying me to do that because my motivation is to be able to invest time in my Black businesses where I hire Black women into the industry, where I hire Black young people, where I hire Black as much as possible. And so like, I'll happily entertain it whilst I'm on the clock. When I'm being Samina, the director, I'm not interested. I don't care. Whatever. You can't make me feel guilty. Sorry, what was that? Yeah, bye. I don't even entertain being around those people because their level of ignorance that they have is so much so that I don't have the time or the capacity to bring you onto this train. We're moving, yeah? And over time, not necessarily in my lifetime, but over time, you'll have to just catch up. So I've learned to compartmentalize where I am because it's a long game, you know, people have been fighting it long before I came along, and unfortunately, we'll be fighting it long after. I think in the UK, there's this stat that says, in terms of the equal pay in terms of, and when they talk about equal pay in the UK, it's about white men and white women. It's not thinking about it from an intersectional perspective. So when they talk about equal pay, they say that if we continue to progress at the rate we're progressing, it will be 270 years before women have equal pay to men. So 270 years. So I am under no illusion that the campaign for equality and freedom, liberation for Black people in the UK is coming anytime soon. It's not, but I recognize that there are steps that I can influence and I can make, and I'll just keep moving with those. And in somebody's lifetime, maybe the tables will turn. I want to hear some American accents. Can someone talk to me? Any comments?
Hi, my name is Jordan.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi, I just want to say I love the work you're doing. I love that you're, just empowering Black individuals, and not even just Black individuals. It could be like minorities, like you were just saying earlier. I just love your work.
I applaud you for that. But that's all I wanted to say.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
You know what, Mena, I have never, and I've been in this business for a very long time, and I've never heard, oh God, they're basically, they still are spaces. When we create spaces for ourselves, they preempt them, and they could be others, anyone other than who you creating the space for. So I've never seen, I've seen it, but we tend to apologize for creating the space and then allowing them to interrupt it. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think you know, it goes back to what are your values, you know, and it's kind of like, and what's important to you. And, you know, when the patriarchy / men are creating spaces, or have been in the past, no one was thinking about us. And it's not to say that we should equal their ignorance or whatever, but at the same time, it's about recognizing, what do we need to take care of ourselves to begin with. You can't fill somebody else's cup if yours is empty. So if you need to create a space, that could be a queer space, Black space, female space, whatever, parents only, whatever you need, let's go make that happen, because we're always coming back into the real world anyway, you know? And for a long time, for me, football was an opportunity for me to just get my head away, fill my cup. But it got to the point that there was racism at the elite level of that sport. There was like sexism and racism happening there. And I was just like, really? Like, I just wanted to play. I just wanted to, like, you know, hit some people on a weekend and get some energy out. And it's still in this space. And actually, even that space became toxic. And so I was like, well, it's not going to serve me to not try and curate some spaces. And there's recognition that other people were feeling the same thing around me. So there's a lot of, you know, I bump into a lot of like friends in Bristol or Black colleagues or whatever, and we're all at senior level in our game, and we're all at the top by ourselves in our respective fields, because we just don't have the numbers. So creating that space has gone on to do so much. And I think what's been really great for me to see is when you get the students, that there's 2 universities in Bristol, and both the Black faculties, they just never mix, because it's all like rivalry. And so at my event, they came together, and like the girls got together, and like 6 months later, they'd set up this project. And I was just like, they're like, oh, Mena, yeah, we met at your event. We started planning this. We launched it after your event. And I was like, oh, wow, like, that's amazing. And like, hearing those stories to me is beautiful, because there's just not enough of us to kind of not have some of allyship. Valerie, yes, Valerie, go ahead.
I'm trying so hard to be quiet. I am, because I see all these people in this space and I really want them to speak. But going back to that, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, because I think you touched on it with regard to Black spaces and learning to be unapologetic for it. Because I think sometimes that's the issue, that we had a spirit of saying that we need it, not me. But the point gets to be, I guess my question to you is, when it comes to somebody that I perceive to be an ally, to actually be in that space, I guess what I am asking is, what is the verbiage? How do you present this to somebody? Because I know what I would do, and sometimes I think I might be a little too cut and dried. But if I was talking to somebody, if I was 19 and I was trying to explain to somebody, say my roommate who I have a great relationship with, but I want to have this space, what is the verbiage that I could empower my students with? Because I'm always talking about, stop saying when you're sorry when you haven't done anything wrong. I beat that horse, because we do too much of that, especially as Black women. So there's my question to you.
Okay. So I think, first of all, you, like I said, you need to figure out how you're going to explain that, because you may spend the rest of your life doing it, because we're Black women living in the world. Do you know what I mean? And if you're an ally to the movement, then you'll have Black friends. So you're doing it to other people for your Black friends, if that makes sense. So first of all, you need to figure out what you're going to say, and put it on a t-shirt or wear it, because you're going to be saying it a lot. Secondly, I would say, for me, I relate it to sport, because I love sport. I played rugby for 11 years, American football for 2 or 3. So I say, we have sports. As part of playing all sports, you need to have a relative level of fitness. And one way to get fit is to maybe go for a run, you might go for a walk, you might do some stretching, you might do some weights, you might do some skipping. all of those exercises are useful for the majority of sports. However, if I want to play American football, I have to go to American football practice to specifically learn things related to American football. There's no point me going to a basketball practice or a baseball practice, yeah, to learn how to play American football. It's not going to help me in that space. So as a Black woman, there are things that I have, sorry, as a human being, there are things that are useful for me to function in the world, to feel well, to feel great. Those things might be eating healthy, having friends, having good conversations, doing things that I enjoy. All those things are helpful for me as a human, laughing, whatever, crying. They're useful for me as a human being. But as a Black woman, I need to be around other Black women because that's what I need specifically as a Black woman. And so I'm going to go off and do that. And yes, I'll come back into this space. So I try to describe it using a language that's simple and breaking it down like that. That might be one way of doing it, is taking it somewhere else. The other way of doing it, I find, is easy with white women, is white women understand feminism, yeah, the majority of them. They understand at some point in their lives, they've experienced sexism. And so therefore, it's very easy to explain it to white women because you just talk about sexism and say, right, it's the same for race, yeah? You need to go to an all women's space or an all women's gym or an all women's sports team, or you need to, you know, have a conversation about, you know, how you, yeah, about being a woman. The other way I would explain it, and hopefully I don't trigger anybody with this comment, but it's kind of like, it's interesting that as Black people, we're expected to explain ourselves all the time. What we say is not enough, yeah? We have to explain it and justify it and bring out facts and have 100 other people agree with it, and there's a video to prove it as well. What we say is our lived experience is never enough. And if somebody had been, let's say if a woman had been abused or raped, she would never be expected to stand in front of a room full of men every day and every week and talk about her abuse. Yeah, every day talk about it, every day explain it, every day justify it, wear a t-shirt saying, don't touch my ass, you know, whatever. She would never be expected to do that. But as Black people, we're expected to consistently explain, yeah, the attacks that we experience, yeah, the abuse that we experience, and justify why it shouldn't happen and explain why we need to, you know. So I tried to break it down into whoever I'm talking to. I guess the last thing I say as an activist, you have people on this side, which are kind of people that are for the movement, yeah? They're at the front of it, they get it, they're on that page. And over here you have the KKK and people that just don't care, whatever. And it's and there's a whole line. And in the middle, it's kind of like people that you want to get over here. I don't waste time with these people. No matter how much I invest in them in my lifetime, they're never going to be even over the line. They're still going to be down there somewhere. So I only invest my energy on people that are just this side of the line, this part of the line, and people that just need to be better. Because if you get those, then you have a majority anyway, and these people will just have to toe the line. So I don't waste time with people. So if someone's asking, why do you need it? Why do you need it? I would decide, do I care what this person thinks? Do I like my roommate? Do I have the energy for this today? If I don't, I just would ignore, I'd change rooms, I'd ignore them. I'd be like, do you know what? We're not there. Let's just not have this conversation anymore. I would make a decision as to what my motivation would be for engaging in that conversation in the first place and decide, is that serving me? If it is going to serve me, I might have it. Where are they on this spectrum? If it's not, I wouldn't waste any energy on it. Let me just show you a quick video. It's 1 minute. We've got 2 minutes to go. So I'm just going to share the screen again. This is the video to give you an example of what we did. And it's not, there's no sign, there's a sign, but you don't need to hear the sign, so it's fine. So let me see, hopefully that'll play for you all. Can everyone see? Fingers crossed.
No sound.
That's okay, it's all subtitled anyway. Can I touch it? Is that okay? Do you mind? Oh,
As a complete stranger, just getting your hand in my face is weird. It's really uncomfortable. It's not nice. But it just really freaked me out. You come to someone and go, probably could do without it.
How long did you do that? How long, Mena?
Okay. I think we're at time.
Darn it. Can you hear me?
Can I hear anything? I can't hear anything. Hello? Can you hear me? Yes, great. Oh, Alonda, we can't hear you. One new message. Yes, yes, yes. I completely agree. True. How long did you do that? How long did I do the video? Just for the morning. It was really hard for about the first half an hour. I couldn't. I kept walking over and like trying to do it. And I was like, I don't want to touch random people. It's just got like, and I was just like, what? These people must have no boundaries that do it all the time, because I was just like, I can't do it. And my friend was in a car, in the back of my car, hiding with like a long lens, and she was just like, listen, like you need to sort it out. We've got 2 hours. Like just go and do it. We're not getting any footage. I was like, okay, I'll do it. So then I kind of just, once I got into it, I was like, okay, let me go with it. And but yeah, we made it happen. Cool. Any final comments, thoughts, questions before we close? I feel like lots of people sat there, but no one's, unless I've covered it really well.
Yeah, one more question.
Go ahead, Valerie.
So one of my former students, she's actually a professional over in Texas. She just recently posted these pictures of these women with signs that said, "You can touch my hair." There are several Black women walking around with pictures, with posters telling people, "You can touch my hair." How do you feel about that? I know how I felt about it when I saw it, but what are your thoughts about that?
I have two thoughts. So my first thought is that, actually I have lots of thoughts, but my two perspectives. One perspective is Black women can do whatever the hell they want. We are told so much not to do this, not to do that. We have to submit, we have to do so many things as Black women to just appease everybody and everyone around us, everybody else. So Black women can do what the hell they want. Full stop, new paragraph. This other perspective is, what the hell are you doing? We're right here, right here trying to change something, and you've just like, what? So I feel like if I had the opportunity, if they said, look, let's go for dinner and it's not COVID and we can have a chat, I would be like, yes, I'm there. Because I just want to hear your perspective. Because I guess what I would say is, as someone, I have a growth mindset, and I believe in the school of life and all that stuff. So no matter how strong my opinion is on something, I'm still open to hearing a perspective. Because it doesn't mean that I can't change my mind. So I would love to hear what they say, because who knows, maybe what they say is so profound and the perspective is so far from the limitations of my imagination. What they're doing, they may have a bigger something at play. I don't believe that, but I'm open to it. So I would want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Would you say something loud?
I have a comment.
Yes.
Okay, so Valerie, when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, good for them. They are fundraising. They're going to make money off of this. They're not, no one's coming to touch their hair for free. And that's what I assumed. I didn't even read the article. I just assumed like, oh, they're making money off of this. It's their fundraiser. So instead of touching my hair for free, I'm going to make money. So that's kind of how I took it, because I'm just like, what's the point unless they're going to profit off of it? So I thought it was interesting that you said, on one hand, it's like, oh, well, you could do whatever you want. But that's where my mind went, because that's the only way that I'm just going to just be okay unless I'm going to benefit from it.
You know, I guess when you showed the video, Mena, because it's done the same way. It's out in a park. They're out there just letting people just go through their hair. And I was like, the reason I asked the question, because in my brain, it makes me feel like they were undoing the work of trying to give people boundaries for my person and my body as a Black woman. I understand we can do what we want, but it was like, why are you over here undoing? We have taken so many years of trying to tell people, no, stop, please, back up. And then now you out here with the sign. I'm like, why? Why do this? So yeah, I hear I hear your point, but you showing that one video and them being out in the park doing the same thing, it just kind of boggles my mind.
And I guess, and it speaks to the idea that, you know, people all over the world, wherever you go as a Black woman all over the world, we're treated the same. You know, it doesn't matter, even within countries where we're a majority. So Nigeria, Kenya, you're still a woman to a man. So wherever you go in the world as you're still a Black woman. That's a fact. And I've traveled lots of places in the world, so I can testify. But I guess I would say that, like, even at the point that they're, I guess, out there in the park doing that, the idea that they're undoing something, to me, is true, because that's what I believe. But at the same time, we're not a monolithic group. You know, we don't all think the same. And, you know, we shouldn't be surprised that there are people out there that do that. And in fact, even in the survey, there's a very small minority, but some people are like, yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, I don't care. If people want to, yeah, it's fine, I don't mind. And you're just like, oh, they're in the sunken place, you know, like, is what you're thinking. But you have to respect that. Yeah, some people don't mind. I went to Vietnam just about maybe 2 years ago to go on holiday. The same year my blood brother Floyd went. I went and it had a great trip, but people were staring at me the whole time. There are people that were like maybe homeless people, like very poor, laughing at me. And I was like, I'm from England, I'm staying in a 5-star hotel, and you're laughing at me. Like, but they were laughing at me as a Black woman because they see me as just a Black person, and people trying to prod me, and we weren't allowed to go in certain restaurants just because. So even in my psychology, I was just like, how dare this happen to me here? But at the same time, I'm still a Black woman in that space. It doesn't matter about my economic status. My brother went to the same year, he went, and he was just like, yeah, it didn't really bother me. Yeah, there were like, you know, loads of people saying stuff. People want to take pictures and touch me. At the end of the day, they've never seen Black people before. So, you know, whatever, like, and he didn't care. We have, you know, we grew up in the same area, but he, you know, from a male perspective, he was an athlete. He was very celebrated. You know, he was seen as very attractive. He did a lot of modeling when he was younger. So his Black experience is very different to my Black experience as a woman. Do you know what I mean? And as a bigger woman. And so his perspective in life, those things don't bother him because he literally just doesn't care. And I'm just like, you know, what can we say? And we have very interesting conversations about it and discuss, but we're not a monolithic group. You know, we think differently.
Mena, I'm gonna jump in. Hi, it's Martha Reed. I'm Alonda's right hand. Her mic is out. But we want to thank you. We have been so looking forward to this. And I'm her Latina sister. And let me tell you, I go places and the poopier the hair is, the more they want to take it. And I'm like, and so when I saw this come up, she talked about it, I said, now I can go back and tell my other Latina sisters, we're not alone in what happens to us. But thank you. Does anybody else have any questions before me signs off and gets to go to bed?
Very good. Great show, Alonda.
But thank you. And I love your earrings.
Oh, thank you.
Those are awesome.
Because yeah, I do a lot of stuff for women in tech, Black women in tech as well. And like a lot of laser cutting, CNC design, making, do you know what I mean? So I'm all over that. But yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, feel free to drop me an email. I'll put my email in the chat just to say hello. I love having international connections. So I'm here for the fun of it. If there's any links or anything you think is useful for me to read or see, projects you're working on, feel free to share them. I'm always, again, up for making international connections in different ways. So thank you so much to Alonda for finding me, inviting me, and thank you to you all for giving your time this evening. I'm going to bed because it's nearly midnight.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.